Becoming a millionaire is not easy, and in this video I'm going to share with you 7 millionaire skills which I wish I knew when I was 20 years old. If you're able to not only understand and internalize these 7 skills but to actually execute upon them, chances are you're going to become a millionaire much quicker than me. So without further ado, we're going to get straight into these 7 skills. Being a millionaire is not easy, right? Oftentimes it's a lonely, difficult, challenging path to take, and chances are that's why so few people ever achieve this level of status and wealth. But with that comes the need and the ability to look out for yourself. And this is one of the things I made a huge mistake on, particularly through my 20s, was I'd often let loyalty get in the way, wrongfully so, of me achieving my outcome. So the first thing to remember, and a saying which stays close to me, is that you've got to look out for you. Nobody else in this whole world will prioritize your wealth but you. Sometimes in your 20s, when perhaps you've just come out of the education system where everything is pretty rigid, you may think that your seniors or people you look up to, or your manager or your boss or your business partner or your co-worker is going to look out for your financial interests. Guess what? They're not. Your boss does not want to give you a promotion. Your boss does not want to pay you more. You need to look out for you. And the sooner you realize that, the quicker you're going to start making progress in building your net worth. Because the reality is, you've got to take responsibility. You've not only got to command that level of wealth, but you've got to actually internalize and believe you're worth it. And oftentimes in your 20s, you may be lacking confidence. You may not have experience. You may be still faking it before you make it, right? But to really internalize and understand that only you are looking out for your wealth is a huge start to take in your 20s. No angel is going to come with $1 million and just throw it on your lap. It's not going to happen. You've got to take responsibility from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed. Nobody's going to do it for you. Now, when compiling this list, I wanted to pack it out with some really exciting tips. Not the same generic stuff you've been hearing in other videos, but this one I could not skip past, and that was to invest early. You've heard it time and time again, but the reality is that's something like, yeah, I'll do it, but then nobody gets started with it. The level of importance of investing in your 20s versus your 30s and early 20s versus late 20s is huge. If you don't believe me, go use a compound calculator. Use a compound calculator, type it into Google, and put in some variations of how much you'd be worth if you just started investing small amounts when you're 18 versus if you start when you're 30, and you will be shocked. Remember, compound interest is considered the 8th wonder of the world, right? It's amazing how powerfully that can build your wealth. So make sure it's working in your favor. Now, one of the common rebuttals I'll get when I'm letting a youngster know that you should be starting to invest early is, well, I don't make any money. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I've got very little. I'm not earning much. And my common response is, now is the best time to invest. And I just wish I knew this. When you're in your 20s, oftentimes you may be living with your parents. You may be, you're really able to minimize your lifestyle and live on ramen, right? You've really got that hunger in your belly to become a millionaire. You don't have the normal anchors of somebody a little bit older who's a bit more set in their ways. Maybe they're used to their car, they're used to their holiday. Maybe they've got a wife and kid and they've got to maintain their 3-4 bedroom house in a certain neighborhood because of schooling. You've got all of that in your favor in your 20s. And so for you to figure out how to save, even if it's $100, $200, $300 a month, right? Because you're not buying those Nike Air Forces. You're not getting forced to buy those Christian Louboutin shoes, which you don't need, right? You can get a head start in the market by investing. But here's the thing. It's not just about the act of building wealth through investing. It's about the lessons you're going to learn along the way. By starting in your 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, if you're investing, putting money away, learning about the stock market, most people at that age in their 20s don't know what the S&P is. They couldn't tell you what a blue chip is. They couldn't tell you what a growth stock is. They couldn't tell you what a price to earnings multiple is. They're not investing in cryptocurrencies. They're not trying to understand the notion of investing to build their wealth. They earn and they spend. They earn and they spend. So more so than you becoming suddenly overnight a millionaire for investing £200 a month, it's the lessons it's going to teach you later on in your mid-20s and later 20s when you really start to come across some decent money, tens of thousands, your first 100,000, your first 150,000, that then you're set up to make the right decision. As opposed to being somebody who's never learned to invest, suddenly comes across 100,000 for a promotion or better working or something with their business, and they don't know what to do with it and they lose it. So really important tip, start investing early. There's no such thing as investing too little. You can start with anything. In crypto, in stocks, there are so many different apps now where you can literally just invest a few dollars here and there to get started. Now, this one's quite a deep one for me because it really was one of the things which held me back. And when I look back, sometimes I have regret. I mean, I don't regret where I'm at. I'm very grateful for where I'm at. But sometimes I look back and say, this mistake I made in my 20s probably held me back a good 4 to 5 years. And that was misunderstanding the notion of working hard versus working smart. Now, I was one of these guys that was naturally very intellectual, let's say, right? I did really well at school. I got internships at major investment banks and then converted those into full graduate roles and did really well. Everything came naturally to me to work hard and follow the system. But what that then meant in terms of business and building my own net worth was I'd often mistake working hard for actually making progress in building net worth. And the two aren't always fully correlated. Let me give you an example. A laborer who works in the desert for 12 hours a day in the 50-degree heat, digging up sand and doing construction work, is working far harder than Warren Buffett or Elon Musk ever will. They will not see a day like that. But why is it these people are earning so much more? Why is it that their earning potential and net worth is so far greater than somebody who's working hard? Obviously, because that person who's working in the desert, one, doesn't have the opportunities at a point, but two, is not working smart. He's not working at something which is going to give him a route to the earning potential that he wants. So this is something that I came across in my mid-20s, and it really did hit home where I go, hang on a second, maybe I'm just procrastinating behind working hard. Because we can all sit here on our desk and say, hey, I'm sat in front of my desk for literally 15, 20 hours a day, I'm working. But maybe you're using it to procrastinate. Maybe instead of sitting in front of your desk, you need to be figuring out what avenue you need to go down. You need to actually do that hard bit of thinking to say, no, this path which I'm doing right now is not going to take me to $1 million. I need to do the bit which I'm avoiding. And that's the key. When that clicks in your head, you can actually procrastinate by working hard. There'll be some of you who are watching this who are nodding along, because not everybody is lazy and not everybody who works hard becomes a millionaire. It's just the fact. You need to work hard, you need to work in the right path, and then you need some luck and opportunity along the way. Tip number 4, and this is another biggie, and this is misunderstanding the difference between net worth and disposable income. Now, if you were to go up to a 20-year-old, the average 20-year-old who isn't necessarily in tune with finances or building their net worth or investing, and you said to them, what is a millionaire, right? A millionaire to them is just somebody who's really rich, who can do what they want. But the reality is, in today's world, a millionaire in certain countries, such as where we are in London or in New York, in Manhattan, can barely get by, right? If you own a house, if you have a little bit of cash in the bank, if you've got a somewhat decent car, chances are you may be close to $1 million in net worth, right? Doesn't mean you can live a lavish lifestyle. Doesn't mean you can live that $1 million lifestyle. So that's one of the things that's important to understand is if you want to live that $1 million lifestyle, that means you need $1 million to dispose of every single year, or at least hundreds of thousands. If you want to be flying private, if you want to be doing first class travel, if you want to be fine dining and driving fancy cars and all this kind of stuff, $1 million is not enough. Let me illustrate this example. Let's say you've managed to become a millionaire, which by traditional methods means you have a net worth after tax of $1 million. So not only have you been able to earn more than $1 million, such that after tax, you now hold and preserve $1 million, that is you considered a millionaire. But now think about it. If you want to live that lavish lifestyle where you're spending $200,000, $300,000 a year, that $1 million is not going to last too long. So the way to think about it, and the architecture I use in my mind, is what is your almost risk-free or risk-minimized return on that $1 million? And the best way to use it as a gauge is, what if I invested that $1 million into the S&P this year? So I've earned my $1 million, well, I've earned more than that. I've paid tax, such that I got $1 million left, and now I'm going to go and plop it into the S&P because I'm a lazy investor. I don't want to allocate my stocks, right? I want to play it safe. I want to go into the S&P. Maybe I'm busy doing my business. I want to leave it in the S&P. Well, on average, and I'm being generous here, you can get the exact numbers. Let's say the S&P over the last 25 years averaged a 10% return. That means on your $1 million, you're going to spit out passive income of $100,000 a year from your $1 million. And your $1 million will stay there. So you're not going to damage the cash cow, but you're going to get 100,000 every single year on average to spend on your lifestyle. So you can see, you can't spend a millionaire lifestyle on $1 million. You can live a comfortable lifestyle, and in most cities around the world, apart from perhaps like Dubai, New York, or London, you should be able to live a financially free life on $100,000. It's not to be snubbed at. You've achieved the first step that many people will not be able to achieve. But that's not the quote unquote millionaire lifestyle. In order to live the millionaire lifestyle, the one that we see in the movies, the one that perhaps you want to achieve in terms of flying first class and living the best life, buying watches and supercars and the rest of it, you probably need to spend $1 million a month. And in order to spend $1 million a month using the same ratios we just went through, you would have needed to earn and retain after tax at least $10 million, right? Such that 10% of that coming back to you every year is $1 million, which you can spend without your $10 million becoming affected. It's still there. So that was one of the major realizations. Again, I had a little bit late into my 20s, but it was something I wish I knew early in my 20s. I wish I wasn't so naive that I just want to be rich, but I actually could quantify it and understand, what does it mean to become a millionaire? What is the difference between net worth? What is the difference between net worth and disposable income? Such that I can actually visualize and understand, what is that endpoint? What is that goal I want to get to? And that brings me on nicely to my 5th skill I wish I knew, which is have a plan. This sounds insane, but when have you ever come across a millionaire who accidentally became a millionaire? It doesn't happen. Even somebody who bought the lottery ticket had a plan of buying the lottery ticket to become a millionaire, right? If somebody inherited it, they kind of knew that they were going to inherit it. It doesn't happen by accident. You have a plan. So it's really important that if you want to become this millionaire, you have somewhat of a realistic plan to get to that point. Let's say you wanted to follow the first example I just shared with you, which is getting financially free for earning your first million. What's your plan? Between 20 and 22, are you going to learn and earn minimum wage? From 22 to 25, are you then say, you know what? I need to be earning 60 to 70 grand and I want to be saving 20 to 25 for those 2 years. Then I want to be getting up to 100 and 150,000 a year such that I can save this. I then want to invest into this product and I should be able to grow myself to 1 million from there. You need a blueprint. You need a plan. Otherwise, time is just going to pass and you're just going to procrastinate, like our earlier point where you think you're working hard. You got spreadsheets open, you're working. Everybody knows that you're spending all this time on your computer and in meetings and working really hard, but your net worth just doesn't move. And trust me, I'm speaking from experience. I've been there. It's not great. You need a plan. Okay, nobody achieves anything without a plan. A doctor doesn't just suddenly become a doctor. A football player doesn't just one day wake up and play in the Champions League. They had a dream, they had a plan, and they executed on that. And it's no different for you if you want to become a millionaire. And let me give you an interesting tip which helped me kind of architect this in my mind. Because again, oftentimes when everybody just says, I want to be rich, that can become very daunting. You've not got a plan, it seems outlandish, a lot of people telling you you're crazy. The better way to do it is to actually write down what it is you want to achieve. What does it mean for you to live the life you want to live? And don't let anybody judge you. If it's lavish, let it be lavish, but write it down. You may find that when you write it down, I know this happened for me, it was hugely modest, right? Maybe you want a certain house. Maybe you want to be able to go on this many holidays. Maybe you want to be able to have this type of car. Maybe you want to have, these types of food and dinner and anything else. Write it down and you'll figure out 2 things. One, it's now clear and architected in your brain, right? So it's not just kind of these wishy-washy ideas, but also you'll realize that it's not as much as you think. A lot of people think they need millions and millions, but depending on where you are in the world, you can do so quite affordably. And then you can make a plan of how to get to that level. So figure that out, write it down, work backwards from there. So let's say you did that exercise, you wrote it all out, and it shows that by the end of the year, you need to earn $100,000. In that case, using the example we shared earlier, you need to invest at least $1 million. So you're on your journey to earn $1 million. By hook or by crook, you want to earn your first $1 million post-tax, such that when you invest it, you're getting $100K for the rest of your life every year to live your dream life. Let's say you do that exercise and it's a little bit modest. Maybe $50K per annum is more than enough. And I know it's more than enough in plenty of countries out there. So in that case, you need 500 to 600,000 invested in the markets. So again, you've got a number, it's in your head, and now you can work towards that instead of saying, I just need to become a millionaire. That can become very daunting. And also it means you have no clear guidance or plan. And again, guys, this is something I just wish I did a little bit sooner. I wish I did this straight out of university, or even whilst at university, just getting a spreadsheet, writing down what does that ideal life look like? What's it going to cost me? And then figuring out, therefore, what is the target and the earning potential I need to be able to achieve. Now, this is when it starts to get a little bit deep. And a lot of you guys who are maybe in your 20s and you're watching this, you may not just be able to relate to this. But again, if you can sit and ponder on this and try to understand it, you really are going to be ahead of the curve, and you're certainly going to be far, far ahead of me, because this is a point I just could not wrap my head around. And when it hit me, I wish I knew it sooner. And that is, at what cost? Yep, I'm asking you the question. At what cost do you want to become a millionaire? Whether it's a stock millionaire, crypto millionaire, real estate millionaire, at what cost? And can you answer that question? Because one thing I've learned, all millionaires are not created equally. I've spent time around numerous millionaires, from 1 million net worth to 10 million net worth to $500 million net worth. And one thing you will notice, all of them have sacrificed to different extents. And the reality is there's no right or wrong answer. The only right or wrong answer is what's important to you. At what cost are you willing to become a millionaire, 10 millionaire, 100 millionaire, billionaire? And where on the spectrum do you lie? Because cost is for real, sacrifice is for real. And I'm not just talking you spending time in front of your computer. I'm talking about you missing moments with friends. I'm talking about you missing weddings of loved ones. I'm talking about you missing quality time with kids or your wife or spouse if you have one, right? This is real. And so oftentimes when you start to meet certain millionaires, you will realize that they're not all created equally. So this is an exercise again for you to do. Sit and reflect upon that. Do you want to become that person who's a multi-billionaire? Somebody like Steve Jobs. And this is something I reflect on a lot. Would I want to become Steve Jobs, but everybody speak badly of me and never have anything positive to say because I was just a ball buster getting people to build my business? Or would I rather be a humble lifestyle where I can say, hang on, I only need 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 million, figure it out what the number is for you. And I'd rather be liked and known and spend time with important people and be able to cherish life and be grateful. You've got answers to this question, and it's okay. Everybody is different. There are people like Elon Musk who are out there who are going to go and do that. But the reality is it might not be for you, and you can't beat yourself up about it if that's not for you. Maybe just having 1 or 2 million is enough for you, and being able to do all the things you love to do and not have to sacrifice too much. And when you've come to that realization and you can do so early, then you can set yourself on the right path without then worrying about regret. Because regret is the killer, right? You don't want to spend all your 20s chasing after this dream of becoming a multi-millionaire, only to get to your late 20s, having made all the sacrifices, missing all the time with friends, the time you could have spent traveling, the time you could have spent maybe getting another degree if you wanted to, or spending time with loved ones, only for you to say, hang on, I never wanted to be a millionaire. It's not for me. I didn't want it. I don't like the lifestyle that it comes with. People think I'm a jerk because I'm just looking out for myself and I'm not taking care of other people. My employees don't like me because I'm just constantly giving them deadlines they can't meet. It's tough, right? So you've got to introspect on that. You've got to understand that not all millionaires are created equally, and they've all sacrificed somewhere on this spectrum. And you've got to decide, where do you want to sit on this spectrum? And it's okay. There's no right or wrong answer. Just what you believe in and what you're not going to have regret with. And last but not least, guys, I'm giving away all my golden nuggets, so make sure you subscribe and hit the like button, guys. Come on, man. I'm giving you years worth of reflecting and poignant ideas, which I've spent literally hours contemplating and trying to get the bottom of. And that is make inflation work for you. I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, we are living through a high inflation cycle. We're talking about inflation at 10% in various different countries or more. And one thing I've learned over the years, and again, a little bit too late, is when you have these macroeconomic pressures, don't fight them. You as an individual are not going to fight inflation. What you can do is make it work for you. And that is what many multimillionaires and multi-billionaires understand and internalize very early on. For example, let's say you're sitting there on the receiving end of this 10% inflation, which we all are to an extent, right? We all need to buy fuel, we all pay for our cars, we pay for groceries, we pay for holidays, and on average, everything is inflating by 10%. Well, by definition, that means there are producers out there, businesses out there, who have the purchasing power to increase your products by at least 10%, many of them 15, 20, 30%. And then when you come to that realization, you understand that you need to be sitting on that side of the table. It's okay to pay the inflationary rates on all the other bits, but what's your business that you're able to keep pace with inflation? Very important. Otherwise, you're working a job. And if you notice what happens in the rat race, employers will fight tooth and nail to make sure that your wages are not increased at the same rate as inflation. How many of you who have a job watching here right now, has your employer not increased your wages over the last few years to match inflation? Right? They won't. They'll pretend like they're going through hard times. Why? Because they've got purchasing power. They're charging the customers more, but they don't want to pay you more. And so they create this new narrative where you get used to working for a certain amount, customers get used to paying the new amount in this inflationary world, and guess what? Prices never come back down. Inflation will show a reading of coming back down, but these prices, these new expectations that have now been set in the market for fuel, for groceries, for, a restaurant dining experience, it's very hard for these prices to come back meaningfully down. So the lesson I learned early on is make it work for you. Make sure in your earning streams, you're benefiting from these cycles. If inflation's going up, you should have, purchasing power to push that pricing power across to your consumers. And that way it's working in your favor. So there you have it, guys. Those are 7 millionaire skills I wish I knew very early on. I mean, I know some people that have started to clock onto these ideas very early on, 18, 19, 20. Youngsters out there are becoming more and more savvy with finance. When I was a little bit younger, it was unheard of, right? You'd go to school, you'd go to university, maybe you wanted to be an investment banker like I did, and on you went. But to internalize these ideas and then to try to apply and execute them early on in your career of building wealth is going to be hugely, hugely rewarding for you. And look, let's say you're not in your 20s. I know there's a significant part of my audience who are not in their 20s. They might be in their 30s, their 40s, or 50s. It's never, I repeat, never too late to start executing on these principles. These are life principles, which whenever you start can set you on the right direction to be building meaningful wealth. Remember, there are many multi-millionaires out there, including the chap from KFC, and McDonald's, who did not make their wealth until later points in their life. So this is not all about the 20-year-olds out there. I know you guys are young and hungry, but also you older bucks, it's never too late. Crack on, take these tips with you. Let me know what you think in the comments. Go watch this video here, and I'll see you in the next one.